Okay, so before I can even begin to start programming this, we need to work out how we're going to be able to store each item and the quantity that's been added inside session variables. Now, you can remember that earlier inside cart.php, I created my session start at the top. So we're using variables, but we need to work out how to store them. Now, I've come up with a way to store them inside sessions, probably the best way. So what we're going to do is in our table we have ID numbers. So we've got let's browse again. We have got the book with ID as 1 and the T with ID as 2. So if we store our sessions like this, cart 1 and that has a value, and cart 2 and that has a value. Now cart 1 represents ID 1, so that's book. And bear in mind these are only created once they're being added, so they don't all exist at once. Cart 2 represents T. If these both start out default as naught, they don't start out as naught, they start out as null or just nothing. Then if we plus 1 to them, we're going to add them to our cart, so we're going to have one instance of them. Let's say I added ID with 1, so I added a book to my cart. This changes to 1. If I added then some T to my cart, that changes this session variable to 1. And then if I wanted, say, a couple more of the books, this will change to 3. So these are the session variables. So this would look like that, and the same for cart 2 as well. So that's basically how our session variables are going to be going to look, and we're going to be adding sort of, oh sorry, I didn't want to save that. We're going to sort of be adding 1 on each time. So inside our cart.php we want to handle what we did in the last stage, which was when we click on add, it takes add equals and the ID names. This is T, which is ID of 2 in the database. So then we can create our cart underscore 2 or our cart underscore 1 depending on which product has been clicked. So we want to do this sort of up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if is set $_get add. So if we have clicked on add, then I'm just going to say blah. Okay, so let's click on add here, blah. Okay, if we visit cart.php without clicking on anything, nothing's displayed. So we know that this line of code here now works. But obviously we don't want to echo blah to the user, that would be rude. What we want to do is we want to add a quantity of this item to our sessions. So what we're going to do is very simply say $_session, and then inside here cart underscore, and then we're going to concatenate onto the end of it get add, and this is the ID number that we've passed through our get variable. So now this would equal, say we clicked on book, which is ID of 1, cart underscore 1. Now the reason we don't just set it as 1 is that session variables don't allow you to have just a number in them. It has to have something on the beginning, and then we can concatenate a number wherever we want to, and then more text if we want to. But in this instance I'm going to say cart underscore, and then this is going to be the ID. So the next stage is to say plus equals 1. Oh, and basically what we're doing is we're just adding 1 onto it. So it's the same as saying session cart equals session cart underscore whatever plus 1. So now what we can do is down here we can say $_echo $_session cart underscore 1, and that's just going to echo out what we've done. So we're going to click on the ID of 1 and then see what happens. So book add. Now that's saying 1. Okay, so let's go back. It's still up here because we've included that file. We've included cart.php. Click on book, it goes to 2. So we've got session data now being stored for this specific item. If we click on T, we're still increasing it, but we're not echoing it out down here. But that was basically just for testing purposes. So now we're actually adding the quantity in. Now what we want to make sure we do in this add function is not allow the customer to add any more items than we've got in stock. So obviously, let's just refresh that to get rid of the testing variable. Okay, so we've got quantity of 10 for the book and 3 for the tea. So we don't want to let the customer add any more than 10 and 3, and so on and so forth for any other products you add. So we need some kind of check in here that's going to let us do that. And so I'm going to start up a query, and that's going to be select ID and quantity from products where ID equals and then we basically want to concatenate on the end get add. So where the ID equals the ID of what we've clicked on. But to add a sort of a bit of security to this, I'm going to say MySQL real escape string, and then for further security, to ensure that this value is an integer at all times, in brackets just before it we can add int. That just makes sure that an int is passed, because this is only going to be an integer variable value. Sorry. So underneath this, we want to say while quantity row. So we're doing exactly the same thing as before, with fetching this associated array from the query, and that's quantity. We'll come down here, and inside here we want to say if quantity row and then quantity. So we're grabbing the quantity of the specific item. Remember, we did it by ID inside the query. We want to say if the quantity inside the database doesn't equal $_session and cart underscore $_get add. So basically what we're saying is if the quantity listed in the database doesn't equal the quantity already in the shopping basket, because remember this session is basically our shopping basket, then we want to do something here, and that is obviously that. Okay, so let's run through this again. We're creating a query to grab the quantity from the database, from this that's been posted, so from the specific ID. So if we click on book, this is going to equal 1. So we're going to say select ID quantity from products where ID equals 1. Then we're going to loop through to grab the quantity variable, and we're going to say if quantity row, which is this here, the array we've created, and then we're going to grab the quantity. Remember that is this here. If that doesn't equal what's already in the cart, so let's just say the quantity is 10 and cart underscore 1 already equals 10. Do you remember I showed you earlier how we increment each the variable that's already inside? Then we can add one on. So it's pretty straightforward if you think about it. If we come down, I'm going to echo session cart underscore 1. So if we look in the database, cart underscore 1, that'll be the ID of 1, quantity 10. So let's just go, let's go back to our page here, and we can refresh. Now we saw this before, we've got 3 in already. So book, I'm going to add another one. I'm going to add another one, sorry. So this keeps incrementing. Now you'll find that as we reach near to 10, we can add 9, add 10, try and add another one and it won't let us. The reason being is we've added the quantity that's listed already in the database here, which is what our check was for. So we've basically achieved that. That's it for that one. So we can get rid of that now for testing purposes. And that's basically our add if statement done for when we want to add products. Okay, so in the next part of the tutorial, we're going to learn how to create our cart. So we're going to show the user what items are already in their cart. Then we're going to let them add more items, remove items individually, and delete the complete item itself.